Iskan, founder, Acharya, His Divine Grace. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahans Parivajaka Astottara Sapta Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj ki jai. Ananta Gauri Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Shri Rup Sanatan Bhattaragna Shri Jiva Gopal Bal Das Raghunath Sadguru Swami ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kund Radhakund Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Ganga Mai ki jai. Jamuna Mai ki jai. Tulasi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Shri Sri Radha Muralidhar ki jai. Shri Sri Govinda ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Nittai Gaur Premanande. Glories to the assembly devotees. Glories to the assembly devotees. Glories to the assembly devotees. Glories to Sri Guru and Sri Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you so much for being here. You all are, I'm very impressed with every single person in this room who is here the day after the full day of Ratha Yatra to hear from His Holiness Candramauli Maharaj. We want to welcome His Holiness Candramauli Maharaj to Bhakti Center, and also sincerely beg him to come back to Bhakti Center as much as possible by chanting loudly 3 Hari Bols! Hari Bol! Hari Bol! Hari Bol! His Holiness Candramauli Maharaj ki jai! So Maharaj needs no introduction, but just in case, he actually was born in New Jersey, USA, so not so far from here. Which is an even better reason why you have to come back to New York, Maharaj. And then anyways, he, at the age of 24, he came in contact with the devotees in Denver. And in 1973, he began practicing Krishna consciousness in New York City, and then he served at New Vrindavan for many, many years, and became very close friends there with His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj. and received initiation from His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada in 1973. In 1986, he accepted the sannyas order and began preaching in Ohio. He also became involved with the ISKCON prison ministry in America, holding programs and writing letters to inmates, etc. Yes. And in 1995, he began serving as the resident sannyasi in Chicago. And at present, he preaches in America, India, Western Europe, Slovenia, Croatia, Italy, and the UK, and is an initiating spiritual master within the ISKCON Society, and has also written many books. We have a book table today back in the back of the temple room, and we will be selling books later after the program, if anyone would like to purchase Maharaj's books. He's going to speak to us today on Lord Chaitanya dancing at Rath Yatra.
Hare Krishna. I didn't choose the topic. Just in case you don't like it, it's not my fault.
You can blame me, I chose the topic.
Om Gyan, Timidandasya, Gyananjana Salakaya, Chaksu Undalitam Veda Tasmai Shri Deve Namaha, Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishna Bhutale, Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namane, Namaste Saraswati Deve, Gauravani Pracharane, Nirvasesa Shunyavadi Paschati Narane, Panchakalpa Taruvascha Kripa Sindhu Behevascha, Aditanam Bhavane Yo Vaishnave Yo Namo Namaha, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhattavrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So it's nice to relive Rath Yatra a little bit after, the day after. So Lord Chaitanya's dancing at Rath Yatra is really such a deep principle of spiritual knowledge, along with the essence of spiritual knowledge is revealed. The essence of Rath Yatra is revealed in Lord Chaitanya's dancing. And that will be explained. So, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he narrates this in the 13th chapter of Madhya Lila, Chaitanya Charitamrita. Begins by saying, by seeing his dancing, the whole universe was held in wonder, and Lord Jagannath became very much astonished. So, doesn't work. So, the dancing of Lord Chaitanya is so much, his expression of his mood of bhakti based on his internal identity, which is Sri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Madhyamya. He is Krishna without a doubt, but he is in the mood of Srimati Radharani's love for himself. It's the most amazing manifestation of the Supreme Lord, that he's worshiping himself in the mood of his pure devotee. Interesting. But along with that, he teaches us also the process of how to worship him. So it begins by Lord Chaitanya used to gather each year for the Rath Yatra ceremony. And he would gather with many of his intimate associates, followers, and others. And when we begin the particular program, the first thing is the Pandita Vijaya ceremony. There is, the deities are taken out of the temple and onto the cart. And this is a very, lengthy ceremony. I can remember from my own experience when we were in Jagannath Puri in 2001, 2006, and again in 2014, watching the deities get onto the cart from the temple is like a grand celebration. Deities are carried one at a time, starting with Baladev, followed by Subhadra, and then Jagannath, and then of course Sudarshan Chakra, the weapon of the Lord, comes out at the end. And as they're being taken out of the temple and onto the cart, there is very festive celebration where there are persons playing drums, at least 100 people. We're all beating the drums very rhythmically, very systematically, very together. Then there is also cartel players, not regular cartels, but wompers. They're all playing wompers. And there's dancers, singers, acrobatics. And all this is happening while Lord Jagannath and Baladev and Subhadra are getting on the cart. It usually takes anywhere from 3 to 4 hours before the whole thing is completed. Under the Vijaya ceremony. So when Lord Chaitanya was there, King Prachparuja, who was the king of Orissa at that time, called Lord Chaitanya and his associates to come right to the front and watch the ceremony. Because usually there's many, many people there. The Lord came along with his associates and got the front row seat. And while Lord Jagannath came, when Lord Jagannath came on, the Lord went to ecstasy. Very loudly, Mahima, Mahima, over and over again, which is explained as a very respectful address for a very glorious personality. Chanting over and over and over again. Mahima, Mahima, just by seeing Lord Jagannath. And then he goes on to explain how then King Prataparuja, being the king of Orissa, having such a prestigious position and being very much honored in that position, took the most menial and humble service and grabbed a broom and started to sweep the area in front of the carts. And this really attracted Lord Chaitanya's mercy, because King Prataparuja did, it's described in previous chapters, did everything he could to get Lord Chaitanya's association. Lord Chaitanya, being in the mood of a renowned sannyasi, didn't want to associate with worldly people. Although he knew the king was a devotee, still, as he explained when many of the devotees came to Lord Chaitanya on behalf of King Prataparuja, explained that he's a devotee and he has so much attraction for you and devotion towards you. Still, the Lord said he's engaged in pounds, shilling, and pence. In other words, he does worldly affairs. So being in the renounced order of life and trying to show from the point of view of absolute strictness, he refused to see him. And there was many attempts, but now when he swept the cart in front of Lord Jagannath, the Lord really felt really happy, and he was thinking, soon he will get my mercy. So this menial service is really, it's very indicative of how one actually attracts the attention of the Lord. It's through our service, and of course, the mood of the service is also essential in the execution of the service. So the mood for King Prabhupada was he had stepped down from all of his royalty and all of his glorious position, simply took the most humble position of sweeping the streets. Of course, now we do that throughout the Yatras. But that was first done by the king. And Lord Chaitanya was so, what we say, happy, and at the same time thinking how soon I will bestow my mercy upon him. And so then it describes that the carts were, there's the analogy given, high out Sumero, really you've seen those carts. Have anybody been to the Rath Yatra in Puri during the time? A few. I would humbly, but with great insistence, before you depart from this worldly realm of existence, go one time at least. It's such an amazing experience to watch this Rath Yatra. Of course, there's more than 1 million people there. A large group with the devotees from the head and my Zoli Sravana Maharaj. We got some privileges. We were able to go close to the carts. And the carts are huge. And Jagannath's cart weighs 60 tons. Baladev's cart weighs 60 tons. Jagannath's cart weighs 40 tons, and Subhadra's cart weighs 35 tons. And that's all made from trees that they, cut down practically a year before that, because they never used the same cart the same time, a year after year. After the 1 year, then they take the cart and they disassemble it. That's used for firewood for cooking for Lord Jagannath. So it gets used in that way. But the carts are huge, with big canopies and flags, and it's mammoth. Prabhupada was really proud to announce that when in 1973, when the devotees did the Rath Yatra in London, in Trafalgar Square, Prabhupada said, our cart rivaled Lord Nelson's statue, which is really high up. And that statement was actually in the newspapers. So when Prabhupada read that, he was so happy to hear that they had noticed Lord Jagannath as being even better than Lord Nelson. At least for the time being, anyway. So now, the carts are there, and then Lord Chaitanya began by he gathered garlands from the various pujaris, and he started to distribute the garlands to his devotees. And then, when the ceremony was about to begin, the carts began to move, Lord Chaitanya took his chief devotees and divided them into 4 main groups, with 6 devotees in each group, 1 leading and 5 following, and one of them will be the lead dancer and the lead singer. This is interesting. Traditionally, Lord Chaitanya's mood for kirtan, it was not only a lead singer, but there was a lead dancer who would really just keep the dancing in a certain way, and then everyone would follow. So it would be very symmetrical, very, what we say, beautiful offering to Lord Jagannath. And the 4 dancers in the 4 different groups, one was Lord Nityananda, the other one was Haridas Thakur, the other one was Advaita Acharya, and the last one was Bhakti-Ishvara Pandit. And then the Lord appointed singers for each group. So Damodar in the first group, Srivas Thakur in the second group, Mukund in the third group, and Govinda Ghosh in the 4th group. And then 3 other groups started to come. A group from Kalinagram, a group from Kanda, and a group from Shantipur. So altogether there were 7 groups of singers, and each group had 2 mridangas. And then they all began the kirtan simultaneously. Let's describe here the sound of the mridangas. It was shaking the universe. It was tumultuous. That was as the devotees became, and as soon as the kirtan started to go, and Lord Chaitanya, he did something that was really quite mystical. He started to dance, but in order to give his mercy to each of them, he appeared in each group simultaneously. So he expanded himself in 7 forms of himself and was dancing in each group, and each group was thinking he's with us. We're the most fortunate. No one could see him outside of their own group. And they were singing, and sometimes he would become many, sometimes he would become one. And then, as it's described, that the kirtan was so devotional, so tremendous, that devotees were crying. It was like a torrential experience of tears falling from their eyes as they were singing and dancing. And the groups took their positions in different parts. Some went in front of Lord Jagannath, one group went in front of Lord Jagannath, one group from the side, one group the other side, one group in the back, and then the three other groups also formed around those four main groups. And so there were 7 groups. And Lord Chaitanya really just became absorbed in the kirtan. He was just dancing and dancing and expressing his love for Lord Jagannath in so many different ways. The kirtans were so, Lord Chaitanya's kirtan is called praying kirtan. That means it's full with bhakti. So when Lord Jagannath saw that, he stopped. It's described that Jagannath became stunned watching Lord Chaitanya dancing in the different groups. And no one except 2 people could actually see Lord Chaitanya in the seven groups at the same time. And that was Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya and King Prataparudra. So the Lord showed him special mercy by allowing him to see that he is in all 7 groups at the same time. And of course there was one other person, that was Kashi Mishra. Kashi Mishra, when King Prataparudra saw that, he became stunned in ecstasy, and he was overwhelmed with astonishment. And King Kashi Mishra said, "My dear king, your fortune has reached its limit. Your good fortune has just now become the highest." So in that way, Lord Chaitanya was giving his mercy by allowing King Prataparudra to see him dancing in all groups. And the Lord just kept dancing. It was like seems like he was in one group, then he was in another group, then he would expand, then he would become one. And he was going in ecstasy experience. And at one point he started to chant one particular verse, and that was, let's see, Namo Mahabhadanaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya. No, I'm sorry, that's not it. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Hitaya Chajigagitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. And he started to just chant that verse over and over again. Then he went into the ecstasy of Radharani's love for himself, describing how when Radharani came to Kurukshetra to see Krishna at that time, Krishna was dressed as a warrior, surrounded by chivalries and chariots and infantry. And Radharani, although she was happy to see Krishna, her happiness was limited. She couldn't feel the happiness of being with him. So she describes, she expresses her unhappiness by wanting Krishna to come back to Vrindavan. Although please come back and to your home in Vrindavan on the banks of the Reva River. I can't remember the exact verse, but it was her expression for separation from the Lord. Although she was seeing him and experiencing some happiness, it wasn't complete. It was almost like a mixture of separation and meeting at the same time. So Radharani's love, and so he started to chant verse after verse after verse, all spoken by Srimati Radharani in her love, in the mood of separation for him. Now Lord Chaitanya went into, he wasn't on the conscious level, he was absorbed. And so he was dancing and dancing and dancing. And then people started to gather around, and after a while it was interfering with Lord Chaitanya's dancing. So the devotees decided to protect the Lord. So they formed one group of circles around, and then they thought, well, we need another group. So they had a second group, and then King Prataparuta provided a third group with his band. There was 3 circles with Lord Chaitanya dancing in the middle. I recall when I was in Jagannath Puri in 2006, I remember it was so hot. It was over 100 degrees Fahrenheit. And were you there, Sundarananda? That was hot. And Anjadula Maharaj was there, Radhana Swami was there, Sri Prahlad was there, who else? Bhakti Churu Swami, Devarita Swami, Sachidananda Swami. And we were all dancing. And they did the same thing. The devotees locked arms around us so we could dance because the crowds kept trying to crash. So, and I remember I had an experience that I had heard about happens, but I had never had it experienced until that was the day, and that was, I blacked out. It was so hot. I saw this big black cloud coming into my mind. I was thinking, here I go. I could see it coming. And then all of a sudden I was in a black state of semi-consciousness. And then it receded. And then we started dancing again, and it happened the second time. The heat was so hot. Then Narduma Maharaj, he had a bottle of water. He would keep bottles of water. He was pouring a whole bottle, 1 liter, over his head. And in about less than a couple minutes, he was completely dry. But it was not. It was excellent. It was really such an experience, just singing and dancing in front of the carts. So when Lord Chaitanya was doing that, the crowds wanted to crash to get closer, but the devotees held them back. Then King Prataparuta, with the assistance of this one person called Hari Chanda, Hari Chanda brought King Prataparuta close so he could see Lord Chaitanya's dancing. And he was watching, but then all of a sudden, Srivas Thakur, in his ecstasy to watch Lord Chaitanya, blocked King Prataparuta from seeing, so he couldn't see. So Hari Chanda thought, well, I should do something. So he started kind of pushing Srivas Thakur out, and then Srivas was getting a little annoyed. And then he was thinking, who's pushing me? And then he turned around and he saw this Hari Chanda and he slapped him. Ecstasy. And Hari Chanda got really upset and he was about to say something to Srivas, but then King Prataparuta said, I have not been so fortunate as you to be slapped by Srivas Thakur. So then, somehow or other, he calmed down by the mercy of the King Prataparuta. And then the Lord was just rolling on the ground. And then it's described there was one personality. His name was Subananda. And Lord Chaitanya's ecstasies were exhibiting very unusual, what's the word? Secretions coming from his body. So his mouth started to foam, and the foam was coming out of his mouth. And Subananda took the opportunity to catch the foam and drink it. Holy Krishna. Lord Chaitanya. And it says, it describes in that particular, that Subananda was expert in relishing the higher mellows of devotional ecstasy for Lord Chaitanya. So the dancing continued. And then finally, it was explained, Lord Chaitanya was dancing around Jagannath's cart, going forward, backwards. And here's where we come to the essence of the particular pastime. And I'll read the verse because to try to explain it is not going to be able to give it justice. Lord Chaitanya in the mood of Srimati Radharani is encouraging Lord Krishna, who is Jagannath, to now come back to her. That's the whole story of Rath Yatra. Krishna is in Dwarka, and the residents of Vrindavan want Krishna to come back to Vrindavan. So, as is described in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, that the residents of Vrindavan actually couldn't contain the separation, so all of the gopis gave up their lives and all became the different queens in Dwarka. Radharani became Satyabhama, Candramauli became Rukmini, and many of the principal gopis also became some of the principal queens in Vrindavan, just to be with Krishna. But still, in that mood of Aishwarya Bhav, they still weren't completely happy. But the idea was to bring Krishna back to Vrindavan. And when Krishna was in Dwarka, even the queens were noticing that he's with us, but he's always chanting Yasoda, 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 Radhe, 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 Radhe. He can't be happy with us for some reason. He would do it in his sleep. And they would think, these residents of Vrindavan must be very special, because we're serving Krishna so nice and he appears to be happy, but there's something more. He's not really that happy. And Krishna was always thinking how to go back to Vrindavan. So that is the whole story of Rath Yatra, bringing Krishna from Dwarka, which is Jagannath Puri, as is displayed in Jagannath Puri, down the Grand Road all the way to the Gandhicha Temple, which represents Vrindavan. I remember when we were there the first year, Jagannath was really slow that year. When he's slow, that means he likes the Rath Yatra, dancing. So we had about 1,500 devotees. I think that was in 2001. In 2006, we had 4,000 devotees there. And in 2001, the devotees really practically took over the kirtan, especially in front of Jagannath's cart. Jagannath wasn't moving, he was watching. He was watching the kirtan. And the cart only went halfway, because the rule is that it doesn't move after sundown. As soon as the sun goes down, the cart stops. Many years, the cart will go all the way before sundown, but this year it didn't. And so everything stops, and then throughout the whole night, there's pujas, worship, people come and take a darshan. It goes on through the whole night, and then when sunrise the next day, they continue the Rath Yatra. So that happened in 2001. And then the Lord will get in front of his, when he gets to the Gandhicha temple, he doesn't go in. The carts line up in front of the temple. I don't know if you saw last year, it was a mystical experience in Jagannath Puri, where the carts were lined up in front of Gandhicha temple, and it was raining all around except on Jagannath's cart. It was a video, you could see it. The rain was pouring, but nothing on Jagannath's cart. All around it, on each side, and you could actually see it. And it was like Jagannath wanted to give his darshan, so really. It's really, to go to Jagannath Puri for Rath Yatra is really an experience. It's really a powerful experience. And so when the carts are lined up in front of the Gandhicha temple, there's another ceremony that starts in the evening and goes on for 3 or 4 hours with more dancing, with more acrobats, with drums, cymbals, and they play together. To-dum, 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 And so you watch that, and the Lord's being entertained by his devotees. There was one girl, she had grown up learning how to throw, they had these poles with, what do you call it, rags tied on the end, and they dip the rags in oil, and then they light them. So there's fire coming out, it's a long pole. And this one girl, she was about 14 years old, and she was twirling it, spinning it, throwing it, and it spins, and she catches it. And she was rolling on the ground and spinning it at the same time. It was amazing to watch. And so all this is for the entertainment of the Lord. And that goes on for hours and hours, and then at one point it stops, and then dignitaries come, and they also take darshan, they offer gifts to the Lord, and then gradually, starting with Lord Balaram, the deities are taken into the temple. That takes at least 4 or 5 hours. So the whole ceremony is like a festival. It's just a festival in itself. And so now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's dancing all around the cart. Sometimes he's going in front just to see Lord Jagannath. Sometimes he goes behind, and then Jagannath gets bewildered. Where did the Lord go? The Lord's hiding from the Lord. It's interesting, because Lord Chaitanya in the movie Radharani wanted to see, how did you forget us? You left and you came here, Dwarka. Of course, after Dwarka, then he went to Kurukshetra. But did you forget us? So Lord Chaitanya was testing Lord Krishna in the form of Jagannath. Do you still remember us? And so in that way he was experiencing his ecstasy. And then I'll read this one verse, which is the culmination of the pastime. It's from the Chaitanya Charitamrita. And here, so it goes on to say, it was sort of a competition between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Jagannath in seeing who would lead. But Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so strong that he made Lord Jagannath wait in his cart. So it says that while he was waiting, his eyes got bigger. Have you ever seen that? Lord Jagannath goes truly mystical. You can see it sometimes. When he's happy, his eyes kind of like expand. That's another story anyway. So here in the pastime, in purport, it says, in his Anubhasya, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur describes the ecstasy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as follows. After giving up the company of the gopis in Vrindavan, Sri Krishna, the son of Madha Maharaj Nanda, engaged in his pastime in Dwarka. When Krishna went to Kurukshetra with his brother and sister and others from Dwarka, he again met the inhabitants of Vrindavan. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Radha Bala Duti Subalita. That is, Krishna himself assuming the part of Srimati Radharani in order to understand Krishna. Lord Jagannath Dev is Krishna, and Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Srimati Radharani. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's leading Lord Jagannath towards the Gundicha temple corresponds to Srimati Radharani's leading Krishna towards Vrindavan. Sri Kshetra Jagannath Puri was taken as the kingdom of Dwarka, the place where Krishna enjoys supreme opulence. But he was being led by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Vrindavan, the simple village where all the inhabitants are filled with ecstatic love for Krishna. Sri Kshetra is a place of Aishwarya Lila, just as Vrindavan is the place of Madhurya Lila. Aishwarya means opulence, Madhurya means sweetness. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, following at that rear of the Rath, indicated that Lord Jagannath, Krishna was forgetting the inhabitants of Vrindavan. Although Krishna neglected the inhabitants of Vrindavan, he could not forget them. Thus, in his opulent Ratha Yatra, he was returning to Vrindavan in the role of Srimati Radharani. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was examining whether the Lord still remembered the inhabitants of Vrindavan. Now this is like a competition between Lord Jagannath and Lord Chaitanya. Do you really remember? Have you forgotten? The Lord dances this way and that way. Jagannath stops, sometimes he moves, sometimes he waits. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fell behind the Rath car, Jagannath Dev himself understood the mind of Srimati Radharani. Therefore, Jagannath sometimes fell behind the dancing. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu indicated to Srimati Radharani, to indicate that Srimati Radharani, that he had not forgotten. He had not forgotten. Thus, Lord Jagannath would stop the forward march of the Rath and wait at the standstill. In this way, Lord Jagannath agreed that without the ecstasy of Srimati Radharani, he could not feel satisfied. While Jagannath was thus waiting, Gaur Sundar Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his ecstasy of Srimati Radharani, immediately came forward to Krishna. At such times, Lord Jagannath would proceed ahead very slowly. These competitive exchanges were all part of a love affair between Krishna and Srimati Radharani. In that competition between Lord Chaitanya's ecstasy for Jagannath and Jagannath's ecstasy for Srimati Radharani, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu emerged successful. He won. His love and his encouragement through his dancing inspired Lord Jagannath, let's go back to Vrindavan. It's interesting how the Lord plays this particular mood to show that the mood of separation from Krishna is actually the mood that has been given to us as the mood of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So what does it mean to worship the Lord in separation? It means to hanker after the meaning of the Lord through the mood of serving the Lord. How is that understood? That I want to be with Krishna, so what can I do? All I can do is I can try to please him by my service. If I can please him by my service, maybe I'll be able to get his association. So that's the mood of Krishna consciousness given by Srila Prabhupada and being shown by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we want to serve in such a way that the Lord wants to see you. Prabhupada would say, don't try to see God, but try to act in such a way that God wants to see you. And when Krishna is pleased, it is explained that the devotee feels completely happy and satisfied by simply worshiping. And that satisfaction is like meeting the Lord through the process of service. But Krishna, he doesn't stay long in one place. He keeps moving. So he comes, he makes the devotee feel happy, and then he leaves again. And the devotee thinks, what happened? He was here, now he's gone. I'm in Maya. No, you're not in Maya, it's just the way Krishna relates to his devotee to inspire the devotee to continue to chase after him in bhakti. And that's the mood of Krishna consciousness. So this particular pastime, which illustrates the pastime of the Ratha Yatra, is really deep in the mood of serving Krishna and the mood of separation from Krishna. Jagannath Puri represents Dwarka. The Ganesha temple at the end of the Grand Road represents Vrindavan. So when we chant and dance in front of the cart, our mood is to encourage the Lord, please come back to your place in Vrindavan. That's the mood of kirtan. Like that. So, to whatever degree we have that mood in, then we're in that mood. We're in that mood of Ratha. Any questions, comments? Yes. Gopal.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Can you elaborate more on what happens after Lord resides in Kandicha Mandir and he goes back to the Jagannath temple? What is that ceremony and did you participate yourself in that?
Well, the Lord in Jagannath Puri, the question was what happens after the return Ratha Yatra? What is the return Ratha Yatra about? Of course, during that time, many of the pilgrims leave, so the population has reduced at least 3/4. But during that time, the Lord stays in Vrindavan, the Udesha temple, for 1 week. And after 1 week, he begins what is called the return Ratha Yatra. And then, while he's going back, there's a ceremony called Gara Panchami, where the goddess of fortune Lakshmi, she's angry that her husband has left her. He left, Jagannath has left. And she's angry. So she sends out her followers, which are all ladies, and they come and they attack Jagannath and his followers on the cart, and they tie them up and beat them. So you get all these ladies beating on the men. It's really women's liberation. And the men love it, of course. That's my mundane interpretation, but anyway. The point is that it's a nice ceremony. It goes on for, I think, a couple of days, where she's angry, he's left, and he didn't get her permission to leave. And so now he's on his way back, but then she's going to show her how she feels towards him by humiliating him along with his followers. That's called Gara Panchami. That's also described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. I've never stayed for that. Any other comments or questions? Yes. Yeah.
Thank you. Regarding the incident with Srivas Thakur slapping the devotee, is there a methodology for us sadhakas to ascertain when we're supposed to, follow the example or not? Because after all, these are all associates of the Lord. We hear it, and they're acharyas, which by definition means one who preaches by example. And so therefore, how do we, perhaps that example...
Well, I don't think we should do it. Because Tejo Samrajo Sire, which means whatever great souls do, they have a certain move. They're doing it not for... He's feeling that he's in ecstasy watching Lord Chaitanya dance. Now his ecstasy is being disturbed. And so in that disturbed ecstasy, he broke his meditation on Lord Chaitanya. So he's feeling that, who's doing that? So he just reacted like that. The protocol, I would say, is not to do it. Unless you're on the same platform of Srivas, but if you think you are, that's another problem. But sometimes it's like that. We feel sometimes disturbed when we're being pushed. Like sometimes during yesterday's Ratha Yatra, when we were in the Kirtan, I mean, it was so crowded, even right around the Kirtan ears, that not only do we get pushed, somebody steps on your sandal and you have to go find it, it's gone. And, there was, you don't want to crash into the ladies, and the ladies don't want to crash into the men, but what can you do? It's like, so, I don't know if our attempt at experience and ecstasy is the same, but it's similar. But I would say, to answer your question, I think we just have to learn to somehow or other not fall victim to these emotions that may appear even though they seem to be natural.
And just continue, Mark, because it wasn't really so much the example of Srivas, it was more the principle of an acharya. So for example, we have Prabhupada who
Right.
acted in certain ways, and one could use the same argument you gave by saying, well, for example, I don't know, what would be a non-controversial thing that Prabhupada may have done that
Oh, yeah.
we could do, or we could not, like where do we draw the line? Like Prabhupada
Well,
said.
we have the example of Srivas, Hari Chandra, the one who was slapped, immediately wanted to react. He said he got angry when he was about to speak to Srivas, but King Pratapurusa immediately stopped him before he could say anything. And he said, "You are so fortunate. I am not as fortunate as you. You have been slapped by Srivas." So the question comes down to, how should we act in these situations?
When an acharya is set an example.
How do we see them? How do we see them acting like that?
Yeah, for one thing.
Yeah, Tejo-sam, Rajo-sam means that whatever great souls do, common men should not simply see that as an example to follow. You have to distinguish between.
But that's the question I'm asking. How do we distinguish, given that they're acharyas by definition?
Right, yeah. That takes some intelligence, I think. How do we discriminate? I think it's a matter of using your intelligence. When Prabhupada was asked, he was giving an example between what is a detail and what is a principle. A principle is something that cannot be changed. A detail is something that can change in the adaptation of the execution of Krishna consciousness. Like Prabhupada made some changes in how devotional service goes on from the way it does in India when he came to the West, and that is the intermingling quite closely of men and women, which was not done in India. It was very strict in terms of boundaries. But when Prabhupada was asked about that by Shruti Kirti, he said, "Yeah, I've done that and I've become successful because of that." So Prabhupada changed what is apparently a detail. And then Prabhupada explained you can't change principles. Like, for instance, the acharyas say, chant 16 rounds, that becomes a principle rather than a detail. So then Shruti Kirti asked, well, what is the difference? Well, how can we tell the difference between a principle and a detail? And Prabhupada's answer was that requires some intelligence. That's all he said. So in certain cases you have to discriminate and see what will further the mood of bhakti in the situation rather than what may appear to be a reaction to something that is apparently different. You can take some intelligence. But when you look at it from this point, this particular pastime, Srivas was in so much ecstasy that when his ecstasy was broken, it was like a natural reaction to just slash out. I do that in kirtan sometimes. And then I have to apologize. Yes, you had a question? Somebody else? Okay, yes, Mataji.
Lord Chaitanya's dancing and singing, and out of love, and showing, the mood of love through dancing and singing. And the mood of separation only comes when you've felt love, right? Like if you haven't felt love, you don't feel the mood of separation.
Right, and there has to be the meeting before the separation actually develops.
So there are a lot of people on the outskirts who are not singing and dancing, right? There are people in the world,
Yeah.
and you can say they've forgotten it, or they haven't experienced that love, right? So while we're singing and dancing, how do you serve those people who have forgotten, right? Like are we not supposed to? Are we supposed to just engage in the singing and dancing and allow God to awaken them? Or what service can we do?
To bring them in?
Should we even be doing that, right? Maybe that's God's job. Maybe that's Krishna's job.
I've seen that certain devotees have that mood. They want to bring as many people in as they can. So they put aside their own absorption just to encourage others. I think that is a great service. And others will stay. You can't blame those who don't do it, that they're not compassion or they're not acting properly. Both are okay, but one is better. So yeah, we want to bring people in. That's the whole idea. And if we can do it in such a way that they're inspired, then. But there's another way of bringing people in. When we become absorbed in a very, concentrated way, that energy expands outward. And people automatically become pulled in by that spiritual energy. And that's very effective. I always remember this was in Chicago, it was New Year's Eve. We were doing kirtan outside, it was really cold. Freezing, people were out, partying on New Year's Eve. So we were doing Harinam Kirtan. Later on, we had also taped it and we did a little video of it. We played it back and then there was one part of the video, there was two guys that were there, they were just, persons on the side. And one person was saying to the other, what are they singing? The other was, I don't know, but it's really nice. So we put some Shakti into our kirtans, and Shakti, and people not immediately attracted. But if we can bring people in, that's even better. But you have to be really sensitive, because some people are not understanding, so they're just trying to understand. They may not be encouraged to somehow take part. You have to be a little sensitive and not force them in. Anything else? Yes.
I remember, you just reminded me of something. In my beginning days of hanging around with devotees, I was driving, I forget, I think it was 23rd Street, crossing town or something. Anyway, I came to a red light. I'd just been associating with devotees for a short while. And at the red light, a team of devotees were dancing and singing across the streets. It was in the summer, windows were down, and the car next to me stopped at the red light. I could hear them, they were like young, and they were mocking the devotees and making jokes. And I was listening to them, and then they sort of laughed, the laughter died down, and then one of them said, yeah, but they do look happy. And then I just smiled real broadly to myself. So as you were talking about dancing and everything, someone as Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj came to mind because he was famous for many things, among those things his dancing.
Right.
And
inspirational dancing.
Yeah, and I was wondering if you could comment or talk a little bit about him and his dancing and how it inspired.
Yeah, he used to like to do the snake dance. he created with a few devotees, like they would put their hands on each other's shoulder and then they go. And then he would encourage everybody to grab, and then the whole temple would be going around snaking through the hole. He was like that. But on his individual dancing, he was really, what we may say, expert in most unusual, very artistic dancing. He was really, you might say he was cool. He had soul. So yeah, I had many experiences with him, with dancing. And we would dance together, but he was in his own world, although we would dance together sometimes, you could see. He would be the leader in all cases. That was his move. But he always liked to bring everybody else in. He made a point to do that, especially in the temple and also with the new people that had come, like on the Sunday feast or a festival. Yeah. But it's interesting, because he told me, he said when I first joined, when I would see the devotees dancing, he said, I'm not going to do that. He said, I wasn't eating any sugar and I wasn't dancing. Because he thought sugar was like bad for you and it's sense gratification. And dancing was, is that spiritual life? Like you're supposed to read books, be serious, and speak philosophy. But then, as time went on, he changed. Being exposed to it. And he went from one side to the other. Complete rejection to complete absorption. So, like that. And I guess that's the power of Lord Chaitanya's kirtans. Okay, so almost right at the end, so thank you very much.
The curtains will open a little bit late, so we have a little bit more time if there's any more questions.
Okay. Anything else? Any comments? Yes, we have a couple.
Alright, let's go. Can you explain a little bit more about the mood of separation that you spoke?
Well, is the mood of separation? The mood of separation, in terms of its comparison to the mood of meeting, is the more intense experience of love. And there is two things. One is called Vipralamba Seva, and the other one is called Sambhog. Lord Chaitanya, Yugayitam Nimeshena Chakshusha Parvishayitam Shunayitam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Virahenanai. O Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considered a moment to be 12 years or more. Tears have fallen from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling unhappy. I'm feeling all vacant in your absence. But it says that Krishna never takes a step out of Vrindavan. But the devotees are feeling separation from Krishna, although he never leaves at the same time. But he manifests himself within the hearts of his devotee. They're feeling his presence in their heart, but still they're also longing for his personal presence. So that loving, that desire to be with the lover is an intensification of the mood of love. In the material world, people also have that experience, but in a limited sense. Like if two people really love each other, and one of them goes away, that other person suffers and is always thinking about when they're coming back. But if it goes on for a long time, then that mood of separation starts to change. And people move on and they forget about that situation and go on their life. But in spiritual life, it's never lost. So Radharani gives an example. When Krishna said, when he left Vrindavan, Krishna said, I'll be back. I'll be back. So every day, Mother Yasoda, the cowherd boys, and the gopis would go to the edge of Vrindavan and wait for Krishna to return. And he wouldn't return. So they were doing this every day. Now this was going on for year after year after year, for so many years when Krishna was. But Radharani at one time expressed, she said to the Lord out loud, you're like a hunter, and you have some animals, and you lock the animals inside of the house, and you set the house on fire. And the animals are suffering the fire, but because you've locked them, they can't get out. So then she explained, I am like that locked animal. Because you have locked the door with the hope that I will return. Although I'm dying in the fire of separation from you, I still have hope. And that's Radharani's expression of her love for Krishna, which we cannot imitate, but that's the example of, love and separation. But as was mentioned, before you can come to that stage, there has to be an attraction towards the object of love before you can actually feel separation. But then there's another thing, it's called Purvaras. Purvaras means loving Krishna before meeting Krishna, which is another form of loving, of separation. And that's for us who are engaged in devotional service. We haven't met Krishna in one sense, but in a sense we did, because it's understood that all souls are with Krishna in the spiritual world and now come to the material world. So that is, Purvaras is inspired by hearing about Krishna. So learning to love Krishna, but simply by hearing about him, and develop attraction through the process of hearing. And that develops a more separation also. Is that okay? It's gotta be, it's a deep subject. If you read Prabhupada's explanations, you get a little bit of understanding. But no, you can't imitate that. It's something that's natural. Yes, Hari.
I have just two clarifications I wanted to get your perspective on. One is you mentioned that the gopis gave up their bodies and went to Dwarka and became manifested as the queens, they were born as the queens. But they couldn't actually give up their bodies, right? Because they were always hoping that Krishna would return. So that was the first clarification I wanted to respect.
Shiva Ram Maharaj describes in his books how the gopis, they just walked into the river Jamuna and they were gone. All of them. And then they remanifested themselves in Dwarka as the queens. That's mentioned, I think, in one of Shiva Ram Maharaj's books on the series of yeah, so all I can do is repeat what I know. I can't really give you much more of an explanation than that. The separation was so strong that you couldn't live anywhere without Krishna.
But they were still waiting for him to return to Vrindavan. So how did that work?
Well, they got you might say they gave up hope that he would return. So let's go where he is. But at the same time, they couldn't leave Vrindavan. So they manifest, because that's also explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita. All of the gopis expand into the queens, they also expand into the Lakshmis. Radharani is the original source of all of the Lakshmis and the queens also. She expands into all the female manifestations that give pleasure to Krishna. Krishna likes Radharani.
That also leads into the second clarification I had, which is the relation to Kurukshetra, because apparently they're alive. The queens are there surrounding Krishna and Kurukshetra, and then also the gopis are there. So there's some way in which both things are happening. And I was also curious, what is the relation to the Rath Yatra with Kurukshetra? Because Jagannath Puri is, as you mentioned, Dvarakatam, and at the same time there's some relation to Kurukshetra that they want to pull him from Kurukshetra back to the Vrindavan.
Kurukshetra is the highest form of separation.
Yeah.
Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati says something. The highest service is performed not in Vrindavan, but in Kurukshetra. Interesting. He says because Radharani needs the most help at that time. She is in the most anxiety in the separation. So one who serves Radharani in Kurukshetra is doing the highest service, even higher than Vrindavan. This is Bhaktisiddhanta's explanation. Yeah. It's there. This is a very, very deep topic. I can only give so much understanding from my own reading. Anyway, just try to love Krishna and everything will be there. And all your questions will automatically be answered.
Can I just share a reflection, just based on what he was asking, just how I would metaphorically see it, and you can tell me if I'm wrong or what the Shastras say about it, but I would imagine that their bodies were in Vrindavan, but their minds and their absorption was with Krishna always, and so they could always, Krishna doesn't restrict your access of him, so even if you're materially in one place,
Yeah.
you can always approach him. I don't know, that's my idea about what he was saying in
Yeah,
terms of
that's the
metaphor.
word of separation, that their separation was so strong it actually manifested itself in Dwarka. Yeah, it's, I can't remember, what was it, Venu? What's that book that was written by? Venu Gita, I think it's, and she was on that. Very nicely. He gets a lot of the information that he writes from other Puranas. These leelas, you don't, some of this is not in Bhagavatam. Okay, thank you. Hare Krishna. Chant this and love Krishna.
And now we will have Arti and Kirtan for the pleasure of Sri Sravana Roy Gaur Chandra. Please, we can move the cushions to the side and I'll come forward to dance and chant for the Lord.
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivastava Gauravata Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivastava Gauravata Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Pragajacharya Stotrashata Shri Srimad Abhay Charanaravindra Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki His Community Founder Acharya Shri Prabhupada Ki Shri Guru Parampara Ki Shri Shanti Goswami Prabhu Ki Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Premse Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopal Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Kiri Govardhana Ki Shri Navadvip Mayapur Dhama Ki Shri Mathura Vrindavan Dhama Ki Purushottama Kshetra Jagannatha Puri Dham Ki Ganga Maya Ki Yamuna Maya Ki Bhakti Devi Ki Tulasi Devi Maharani Ki Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Iskon Vartmana Guru Vrinda Ki Yugadharma Shri Harinam Sankirtan Yagya Ki Rihat Pridhanga Ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Shri Guru Gauranga. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Namaste Narayashri Haya Namaste Narayashri Haya
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, let's please give another big Hari Bol for His Holiness Candramauli Maharaj. Hari Bol! If you would, from the innermost core of your heart, desire Candramauli Maharaj to come back to Bhakti Center more and more, say Hari Bol! Hari Bol! Thank you so much. Maharaj. Thank you all so much for being here. We have this Bhagavat Sravana every Sunday. Please come. This is your home and your spiritual family. Next Sunday we have Sri Prahlad Prabhu speaking on the descent of Mother Ganga. And if you don't know, there's a program happening, actually already happening now in the Brooklyn Temple, and we'll go probably to quite late tonight, the Kirtan Mela. So please go for that if you can. And we have coming up here at Bhakti Center a very special program on the 22nd and 23rd of June, all day Saturday and Sunday, and it's going to be celebrating the 50th year anniversary of the installation of Sri Sri Radha Murli. So that will be here at Bhakti Center. Please come. We will be graced by His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj for that program. So we hope to see you all there. Again, thank you for coming. We have a wonderful prasadam feast served in the back for you all and served by the loving hands of our amazing volunteer team for Bhagavat Sravana, headed by Nick and Jenna and Parastu and Raj and all of the wonderful devotees. So please stay and have prasadam, and thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.